Live from the mist-enshrouded mountaintop fortress that is X and Y Communications headquarters, you're listening to the world-famous Mountaintop Podcast. And now, here's your host, Scott McKay.
All right, gentlemen, how's it going? This is your main man, Scott McKay, coming at you again with another episode of the Mountaintop Podcast from X and Y Communications. Listen, do you feel like you're just kind of hanging in there day to day? Tomorrow you'll wake up and do the same thing you did yesterday, and you're sort of just surviving, not really thriving. Well, that affects all sorts of areas of your life, including your success with women. And today I have the perfect guest to come talk to you about that and hopefully make it a thing of the past instead of a hallmark of your present and an earmark of your future, because you don't want either of those. You want to start thriving, not merely surviving. Before we get to that, I want to remind you that you can find me almost everywhere at Scott McKay on social media, YouTube, X, all those places. And if you haven't joined the Mountaintop Summit yet, gentlemen, please make sure you do. A lot of guys are hanging out there doing a great job. Also, I want to remind you guys to go to mountaintoppodcast.com and download the free book, Sticking Points Solved. That's where you'll find real emails from you guys asking me questions on almost everything. And I'll give you the best answers I know how to give, which are usually pretty good with the kind of experience that I have under my belt. And it covers almost every situation with women. It won't cost you a dime. It's free. So go to mountaintoppodcast.com and get you some. My guest today is named Sonia Bari, and she is a relationship therapist coach. And you ready for this? An emotional clarity expert. And of course, you know, she has to come from New Jersey, because if there's any place I've ever lived that robbed me of my emotional clarity, it was New Jersey. So without anything further, Sonia, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Scott. So happy to be here with you.
I feel almost like you're a returning guest because, full disclosure here, we tried to do this about a week and a half ago. And with the awful weather we had here in South Texas, we got a blackout right smack dab in the middle of the show. First time since 2006 ever doing this show. And I'm thinking for a second, well, I don't think God doesn't want us to do this show. I don't think we're star-crossed, because this is a great topic and you're lovely and it was going great. But you know what? Here's what I know. Every time I've ever had to re-record a show for whatever reason, it's almost always come out better the second time.
Yeah.
So
I think God wants me to be a returning guest.
I think that's probably true. I think I want you to be a returning guest. I'm
Wonderful.
Certainly not God. You know, I don't have those delusions of grandeur by any stretch of the imagination. So you have a very interesting statement, and I think this is how we should kick off the whole show. You asked, what keeps men from thriving? Well, it's almost always revealing itself in how they relate to women, especially in intimacy, leadership, and presence. And when survival strategies are running the show, connection is the first thing to go. Now, I'm going to ask you to just go ahead and riff on that, but I want to qualify it with one observation. When I'm stressed financially, when work is really getting at me, when I have a deadline, when I have a project that has to get done, I get a little crankier with my wife. I get a little more distant. My brain starts wandering. And it really does rob connection, because we don't prioritize that. We have this fire that's burning a hole in our desk, and we've got to put it out before we can get to anything else. And that really is surviving rather than thriving, even in the moment, isn't it, Sonia?
Yeah, absolutely. And so let me just riff on this beautiful place that you took us to.
I think it's a pretty ugly place, but suit yourself.
Well, I mean, it can feel ugly, but that is, to me, all of those places that are challenging and dark and scary, they are all trailheads back to yourself. We can see them as, ditches, or we could see them as those places where we're going to build up that resistance, where we're going to create the muscle, so that when they keep coming back, they are no match for us, because we have used all of the previous ones to build the muscle. So now when they come as they're coming, we are different. We are changed by it. It's almost like using your journey.
So you can kind of recognize these patterns when they're when they're kind of rearing their ugly head and go, oh, okay, you know what, mental trigger. Now I know what's coming and I need an alternate way to handling this other than just going into Tasmanian devil mode and just spinning. What does that look like?
All of us, Scott, every single one of us, I was the kind of person who lived so much from the surface, and I was so focused on like solutions and tangible things that I could win. And just that whole methodology and sort of thinking that we get used to when we think about what success really means. We have this misunderstanding that we're always looking out at these things. So it was just like go, 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 go for me. But then when you create, and you get to create a lot because of that, we think that one of the most common ways that we numb is drugs and alcohol. But really, the most common way we all drug ourselves, we all numb ourselves, is by staying busy. I'm going to stay so busy, I'm not going to have time to think or feel. So that is one indicator. But every single one of us, no matter how far away we think we are from that part of us that is not surviving, that is actually thriving, every single one of us has that part in us that even in the middle of a storm, there is a calm. And you may have experienced it maybe in the middle of playing a sport. Maybe when you are jamming with your friends, you're playing an instrument, or you're driving, you get into the zone where not everything is fine in your life. And maybe you're in the middle of high performance, but you're completely connected to a part in yourself where you are feeling like yourself, but just a version of you that is just so almost like locked in. And that is the place that we all have the capability to learn to come into over and over again at will. And that's where the magic comes from.
Well, now I'm a little confused because on one hand, we're saying that guys will kind of descend into this pattern of staying busy to relieve the immediate stress in the moment, or to maybe not deal with something relationally that's going on that's troublesome. We just kind of get tunnel vision and get buried in our work. But at the same time, you're also saying something about this being this bridge to really self-actualizing and knowing where our purpose is. So what's the difference between saying to yourself, well, you know what? I think I'm just going to stay at work for an extra couple hours and grind because it sure beats going home and facing my wife, because that would be even more stressful. It's just demented and sad, but a lot of guys can relate to that, right? Versus saying, like Lamar Jackson on the Ravens. We're locked in, man. You use the word locked in. And I noticed that the Ravens, I'm a fan of the Baltimore Ravens, for better or worse. And Lamar loves to say, yeah, man, we locked in. We're ready to rock this thing. We're gonna go forward. So far, being locked in hasn't resulted in playoff success for them, but I know where he's coming from and I like the term and it sounds really good on paper. So athletes, people who are really driven, your type A entrepreneurs, those guys are all locked in. They're all focused. I once got an award when I was number one sales guy on my entire team of over 200. And when the CEO got me on stage and gave me the award, what he says is, man, this guy is the king of focus. I can't believe how focused he is. He doesn't waver. When he's got a job, he does it, saying it as if it's a good thing. So how do I take the survival impulse that causes me to get tunnel vision and lock out everything else? Almost like covering my ears and going, la, 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 I can't hear anything else because I don't want to, which sounds immature and dumb, versus, okay, I'm going to stay focused. I'm going to be a visionary. I'm going to have ambition, and I'm going to head towards something that really just lifts me up. And, the tide carries my whole family and my friends and people who are inspired by me with it. What's the difference? What does it look like?
One of the best ways to understand this whole psyche that we have is becoming very aware of your own self-talk. You'll notice that our self-talk gets very catty, very mean. And literally, it's so customized, Scott. It's literally like the voices of all of those people who bullied us.
A little
an
sip of water
amalgam of
here
all
and
the
there will help you thrive for sure.
yes. Yes, I don't know. There's some stuff I'm recovering from. So it's not convenient right now, but that's what's happening. But it's
Well,
just
we
so
want you to thrive for sure. So
yes.
drink all the water you
True.
want. Yes,
You want my throat to thrive too. So it's
absolutely.
so interesting, Scott, that we are so customized in the way we cuss ourselves out. We are so mean to ourselves and we adopt these voices of people we didn't really appreciate, that maybe were the worst people for us. And we are using their voices. Some of them are past and some of them are not, but they don't remember that they've done these things to us. So when we start becoming gentler with ourselves, and whenever you are going to fall into this moment where thriving is happening, one of the biggest indicators is that you're going to start feeling very heavy. You're going to start feeling draggy. You're going to sometimes we are so unaware of our bodies that you'll notice that you'll start to get some aches and pains. Sometimes that's neck and shoulders, sometimes that's lower back for some people, but things start objecting in your body. So you want to be like, wait a second. One thing we all know from working long enough in our lives is that work doesn't end. So we want to be in a place where we can come to the work, connected to a place where that doesn't keep Xing us out. When we built from survival, we can actually build a lot. This is the thing, because that momentum of pain, upset, or fear of, I don't know, losing my whole money and my kids not having what I want, just that fear itself can create so much. And when you create those things, they look very shiny and they look like thriving. Many times you are given accolades for it. People admire you for how quickly you can get up, how little you complain, how you don't need much. And they don't ask how come you are broken. Why are you dead behind the eyes? But then again, that is our job to know that you have to have built enough from this place of survival to understand that it's the type of building that breaks you while you're building it. You could be the guy who has that dream home, but then you begin to lose the family you created it for. You have that accolade that you really worked hard for, but you're losing the health to be able to enjoy it. Or you're the guy who really worked hard for the fame and you really actually deserve it, but then you go punch somebody on an international stage.
Can happen. It can be all lost so quickly, can't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the biggest loss is really losing yourself. So that moment when somebody is losing this on the stage, it sounds like it's the moment, but you've lost it well before that. That is just what we are seeing of where you have basically X'd yourself out while you were creating what you were creating for others.
So don't believe everything Eminem tells you about losing yourself in the moment, right? It's a vicious, dirty lie, isn't it?
Yeah. I'll watch out for Eminem.
Gifted lyricists, I don't know about life coaching from Eminem. Maybe not the best idea. All right, so a lot of guys are saying to themselves, but Sandy, this feels so automatic for me. Of course, I bury myself in my work. Of course, I sacrifice my health. Of course, I do this all from my family. It isn't about sitting around singing Kumbaya with my family all the time and being lazy. I got to go to work. I got to do something. So how can I find this sweet spot between simply surviving and thriving? How do I get to a point where I've almost earned the right to slack off from the grind a little bit so I can actually go, throw a football around with my son or something?
Yeah.
That's what a lot of guys are asking.
Absolutely. And Scott, such a good question, because it's taken me most of my life up until now to understand that this has very little to do with what you're going to do, whether you're going to throw that ball around, or you're going to slack off a little bit, or you're going to spend a little bit and go to a really expensive vacation. Really, it's got very little to do with that. And those of us who have done some of these things that I've described in this list know that we can actually destroy that for ourselves. We can go to a really nice beach and be so miserable, and we can be throwing that ball and be thinking about our next project, or so it's more to do with where you are doing it from. It's not what you do that's going to define whether this is thriving versus surviving. It's going to be you tuning in to understanding where you are doing it from. And I can tell you the various locations to pick from.
Well, please do, because you're calling yourself. Well, you probably are. You've earned the right to have the title emotional clarity expert, and you hear a lot about guys really lacking in that regard. Even the term alexithymia gets thrown around for guys who just almost are on the spectrum with how separated they are from being able to recognize their feelings. So that this is obviously a big enough deal that you have a practice built around it. What are the warning signs that we're slipping here, and how do we get ourselves back?
Yes, warning signs are that building while you're breaking, you're feeling you don't understand why you're feeling drained. There's no reason for you to feel drained. You're doing what you're doing. Nobody's pushed you for it. You want to create all of this financial freedom for your family. However, you're feeling pushed. Here are the other signs, Scott. You are a little critical with the people that you love. You are getting into fights. You're really not present when you're listening. You are taking those vacations and not enjoying it. You are missing moments in your life that you really worked hard to create. It's almost like when you are being truly, truly honest with yourself, you're noticing that you're doing life rather than you're actually living life. That you're not in it, you're watching it from outside.
So it's like not really feeling alive. That's a huge red flag here.
Yes.
That reminds me of what I call the suburban sleepwalk, which we have built this safe life for ourselves, where we insulate ourselves from anything dangerous or anything stressful. And we watch everybody else go on vacation and have an adventure on TV while we just get DoorDash delivered to us. Heck, nowadays it's gotten to the point where we don't even go out and be social anymore. Everything's just ersatz socialization. And yet people are more lonely and stressed out than ever before. I mean, forget this idea of thriving so I can interact with my family and my kids and my girlfriend. Guys are out there saying, what family and kids and girlfriend? I haven't even gotten there yet. I'm still struggling to even work that out in my life. I'm so busy doing nothing and feeling like, well, I'm on this perpetual hamster wheel that I don't have the time and I don't have money for anything else. It's like the old Bruce Springsteen song, one step up and two steps back. I burn rubber. I go out there and I just hustle, and all I get is kicked in the crotch for it. And a lot of people are feeling more and more like that. I mean, I feel like I'm smart. I feel like I should be successful. I'm dead sick of seeing everybody else on Facebook post their highlight reels about how rich and successful they are, and they only did it with 3 minutes a day working, and I don't see it. Everybody who isn't, well, I mean, you could sit here and say, okay, how honest are all those reels on Facebook to begin with? You know, you always hear from this guy when everything's really well for him, like he's crushing it. And then he disappears for a year. And you're like, wonder where that guy went on Facebook. Year later, big splash. Yeah, man, I was homeless and I was this far from killing myself and ending it all. But now I got a bunch more money and I'm crushing it again. And I'm going to show you how I did it. It's like, aha, there we go. There were no highlight reels where you were at your absolute nadir of existence. But now that you're back at the zenith, back at the grind, telling us how to, make something of ourselves. So, yeah, I mean, it's easy to see because of social media and how fake it is that, I'm not doing as well as everybody else. I'm not okay. So what's the solution? Try harder. So many guys, I mean, I get the emails every day from guys looking for the easy button. What is the one thing to say to a woman who will make her, get naked and spread her legs for me? As if that's going to work out, because that woman's busy trying to get what she wants out of you, and it's not that. So when we're at odds trying, to transact with people so that we can feel like we're thriving at the expense of someone else, everyone else isn't going to be there for it because they're too busy trying to thrive in their own little bubble. So it's this vicious vortex of where we're really mean to ourselves because we're not thriving, because we see this image of other people apparently thriving, but we're not getting it for ourselves. And so you have angry people You have people who have lost their ability to socialize. You have people who don't have emotional clarity because they've been told what to believe and they don't really believe it. You see that with politics and very unfortunately, even with religious core beliefs nowadays. People don't even know what they believe at the foundational level. So, how are they supposed to know how they feel and believe in the moment? Am I onto something with all of this? Because that's what I see out there. That's what guys are struggling with. That struggle seems real to me.
It's a very real struggle. It's when we're walking around our lives and we are in spaces and we are feeling from our bodies, we are getting so many emotional signals. And when you haven't, especially as a man, been allowed to express emotion, to have emotion, and then when you finally have emotion, it's seen as aggressive and put it down and shut it down. It's becomes so difficult for you to access yourself. So that whole experience of being raised as a man and many times by a woman who's been wronged by a man, and now she's going to use you to make sure that you don't do any of the things that her husband did to her, your father possibly did to you. It's very complicated.
Well, this is powerful because a lot of guys are out there like, preach, sister. Coming from a woman, this is especially poignant because you're saying the quiet part out loud that a lot of men have felt, but they're thinking to themselves, man, if I stand up and I say this, I'm going to sound like the biggest puss ever.
Yeah.
Like, what am I going to do? Blame my mommy about us? No, I'm going to go grind more and I'm going to try harder. But then you have a bunch of guys, and this is really where the rubber meets the road, who are like, if I just say hello to a woman, I'm going to get arrested. Women are all angry at us. They don't like us. But these guys come off as being angry at women and not liking women. So you have this he said, she said game where I don't like them and I don't trust them because they don't like me and they don't trust me.
Right.
Now, I've talked to people very candidly about racism, sexism, fear of people who believe differently politically, religiously. And I've had some very fascinating conversations with some pretty smart people about, hey, you know what? One of the really major triggers of, say, racism or perceived racism in this country nowadays isn't that I have this hatred towards a different race, but I think that other race hates me. And so, it's like this weird reversal of thought process where we assume I'm going to be hated, I'm going to be mistreated, so just avoid those people. And it's gotten to the point where I think men and women have started to feel that way about each other, which is ludicrous, Sonia, because physically we're designed to be in partnership. If you start going around denying that men and women are supposed to be designed to be, even biologically designed to be in partnership, you're just, you're being stupid. Ron White said you can't fix stupid, but I sure hope we can, because this is getting to the point where it's affecting the family, affecting the birth rate, affecting our ability to thrive, because this is what we were born to do. I tell guys all the time, look, you were born to attract women. And women were born to attract you. And it sounds like a cliche, but that's where we've gotten in the zeitgeist of this culture, Sonia, is we have to remind ourselves of that. So what we do is we say, all right, well, I don't need to date. The AI porn has gotten really good nowadays. I don't even need a real human being anymore. Or I'm going to tell myself that. I'm going to forget about any perceived benefit. And I'm just going to remind myself that I'm an ugly person. I'm an unworthy person. I shouldn't have any desire to be in a relationship, healthy or otherwise, with a female human being, because they're going to reject me, not like me, and, take me to court, steal all my money, have children that I have to pay child support to and only see on weekends. And these guys let this negativity, this self-talk that you spoke of, spin around and around. The biggest example of, I think, where we've gotten as a society in general, and this is very simplistic, but I think it's going to make you laugh, is if we go and we're considering a service, or we're considering buying something, or even listening to a podcast or buying a book on Amazon, there'll be 100 reviews. 99 of them will be positive. One of them will be scathing. We'll read the scathing one first, and it'll be the one we believe. And the other 99 will go, oh, well, they've been paid off, or that's their brother or something. But that one, that's the unbiased one. It could be like your biggest competitor out there, or someone who has it in for you, or, is jealous of your pretty wife. But people don't think like that. They gravitate towards this negative and just glom onto it. That's not thriving. And it's not masculine. It's not attractive either, is it?
No, and Scott, with anything, internet, I'm gonna talk about good, like things that we just consider good: eating well, exercising, praying. Everything that's beautiful in this world can be made into bad if you wanted to, if you take it to an extreme. So I'm not saying reviews. I think that everybody, all of us, you and me, deal with information according to what we have inside us. To be very honest, if I don't read those reviews after I've done my healing, and I remember myself when I had not done it, and I was an angry person. I remember just recently telling somebody on a podcast that I used to imagine myself as one of those people in old locomotives that I'd seen on some old films where you are the one who's putting the coals in. And I would imagine myself covered in soot and sweat and really, the burn on my face. But I'm like, no, I got to keep this resentment going. I got to keep this going, this fuel going. So if you're coming from that place, yes, you're going to look at that one scathing review. If I'm going to see it right now in my healed state, I'm going to be like, well, I think this person really has had a bad day. And that speaks more to who this person is than what the other person is. It's like ultimately we have us to contend with. And we were starting our conversation about how are we speaking to ourselves when we tune in? Is our conversation sounding more like a boot camp counselor, or are we compassionate, loving, caring? Are we speaking to ourselves the way we would speak to our children? Are we speaking to our children the way if we were recorded and we hear that back, that we would be proud of ourselves? Or is our voice, even when we speak to our children, the voice of the ones that we didn't approve of when we were growing up? When we speak about that man who is so scared of these women because he's been maybe raised by women who have been wronged by a man, let's just go a little bit more panoramic. Let's just take a little bit more altitude. And I want you to think about this woman who is angry and raising this boy this way, where he's not allowed to have his feelings, where even if he shows a little bit of any type of emotion that's just a tiny bit negative, that it's taken as some type of a beast. He's going to be like his dad. If you look at this woman, one of the things that contain little girls growing up the most, that gives them the most security, is their dad, right? And that dad has been raised by a woman. So where does it go and where do we stop? And what I say is that I am the new culture. I know somebody raised me. Those people aren't here anymore, or they are here, but they don't have the reins. I have the rein. So me, just this one drop in this massive ocean, I'm going to do everything that I can to heal what was done to me. Because if you don't heal what has been done to you, you almost always transmit it. Either you transform it, and if you don't transform it, you are going to transmit it.
If we continue in anger and resentment towards someone who's wronged us, we've granted them superpowers over our life going forward, and they're the last ones who deserve that power over us. And the twist you're giving to that statement, which these guys have heard me talk about before, what I just said is not the first time I've uttered that, is, when someone else affects you like that, you're going to become that person because it's what you're focusing on. It's what you're believing in. It is what you're believing in, or else you wouldn't be so upset about it. I've had people say just dumb things to me, and they're such dumbasses that I just brush it off. When I hear a pattern of things from people I know respect me and are trying to get through to me, that's when I need to pay attention and do the self-work and correct. But I think there's guys who have allowed themselves to devolve into just reveling in this, well, it's just deep resentment. And what happens is it gets projected onto people who don't deserve it. And so, I mean, I've had men come to me, and in all fairness, gentlemen, you guys listening to this show, I've had women come to me and they'll say, I'm meeting a steady stream. It's a pattern of women who are awful or guys who are awful and they treat me terribly. Well, that's a pattern they're allowing to happen. And the person who's entering into their life, same pattern, different guy, same story, is in that and is happy to assume that role in that person's life because this person's expecting it and will tolerate it. People who don't do good things to us know what they're doing, and they know the evil that they do. But more importantly and more interesting to this whole conversation about thriving rather than merely surviving is someone good and decent and kind-hearted and generous and optimistic will come into their life, and the person who has been trained in their own mind to expect this negative is just waiting for the shoe to drop. They don't trust this person. They resent this person. Why? Don't tell me that you value me and you adore me, because I don't value and adore myself. So, you must be a real loser if you value me and adore me. All these kinds of negative self-talk come into us, and then we project it on everybody else, and then we wonder why we're not thriving. And it's a hamster wheel of, all right, I guess I'm going to go out and try to do another relationship, but it's just going to end the same way all the other ones did, in just a fireball of doom. What's the first step to changing that? How do we get out of it? And don't give me something Pollyanna-ish like, oh, just start looking in front of the mirror and affirming yourself, because I know you're an expert at this stuff and you got something better. So let's have it. What's the step?
So, I mean, I always say to people that, you want to make a list of everything that you want in a partner. Make that list. People are really good at making that list. They're so excited when you tell them that because they've got a list. And after you're done with that list, work very hard to become all of those things that you want from another person. And I want you to almost imagine those sort of sci-fi type movies, and maybe they're not sci-fi, maybe they're like where you have these maybe discs that if you align them, and then there's this light that comes through them, because now you have the final third disc that's just going to make this whole cave open. Are you with me in this little image that I'm creating with you? So it's almost like
you know who you are. You're one of those cute nerds. That's
okay,
who you are. You're the cute nerdy chick, aren't you?
So
admit it.
What happens is that when all of these things connect, Scott, it's almost like you give off a signal from yourself that is so pure. And it is so clear because you are finally connected to what you want. When you start treating yourself the way you want to be treated, you start finding people who will treat you the way you want to be treated.
How about that? You know what we call that around here? It's the main URL of my main site, and you would have no way to know this because you're new around here. DeserveWhatYouWant.com. What a novel concept. In order to get the person of your dreams and attract them, become the kind of person they want.
Yes.
It's so simple, yet not easy. The other thing is there's kind of a mirror image of that. And I call it the golden rule in reverse. And we haven't talked about it lately on this show, but it is foundational to everything I do. I would love to say that this is an original thought of mine, but a guy who's an expert in negotiation thought about it before I did. He writes about it in a different context than dating and romantic relationships. He talks about it in business, but it goes like this. The golden rule in reverse is not do unto others before they do unto you. Okay, that's kind of the twisted version. It's when someone would seek to do unto you, ask yourself, would I ever in a million years try to do that to someone else? And if the answer is, oh, hell no, then don't accept that manipulation from someone else. Don't give into it if you wouldn't dish it out. And to me, that's a huge step. If I'm getting into a situation where I'm just seeing the same negativity over and over again, and I'm starting to ride that hamster wheel of negativity, and make no mistake, you and I both are kind of sort of dancing around this idea that the negativity and the projection and the lack of healing from what's hurt us in the past is directly responsible for our lack of thriving. So that's on the table, right? That you're on the same page with me on that, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
She's nodding her head. Okay. So I wanted to be perfectly clear about that because we've kind of sort of tap danced around this whole idea the whole time, but I wanted to go ahead and spell it out. If you start deserving what you want, if you start being a man who says, all right, I'm going to do the self-work, I'm going to be the kind of guy who the person of my dreams is going to attract, you can't help but start feeling like you're thriving, even if the real world results, the love of my life, the inner peace, the financial freedom hasn't manifested itself yet. And by manifesting, I'm not talking about woo-woo law of attraction stuff. I'm talking about reality. Okay. It isn't there yet. At least you know you're on that road. And it started emotionally, which I'm sure here warms your heart to hear a man actually say out loud because, you know, you're an emotional clarity expert. But yeah, men need to get clear on our emotions because we've been taught it's not manly to do so. Well, you know, that's bullshit because we got to get clear about every aspect of our being or we're not fully grounded. And it's hard to be a provider and a protector when you don't even know thyself yet. I mean, that's basic. But then what happens is we got to stop letting people push us around. We got to stop being willing village idiots to victimhood because that's not manly. That's not attractive. And it's the guy who's going to show up, know himself, know his worth, know where he's headed, and not accept this from other people, not let himself get knocked down that easily, who's going to appear to a woman to be the provider and the protector that's inherently sexually attractive to that woman. I'll let you have the last word on this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the culture that has to come, the place to begin is your inner culture. If you're walking around this world and you're saying, I'm not going to talk to any women because I know that they're going to reject me, this and that, the first person you got to stop rejecting is yourself. The way you treat yourself, that's how other people are going to treat you. People talk about boundaries so much. You want to create a boundary with yourself. For example, I had this moment where I was getting so late for this flight and I hadn't packed in a way that I usually do. And I really got down on myself. And the way I was speaking to myself, this is how I'm giving you an example of how this looks in real life, where I just took a little break just for a second, even though I was getting late. And I said to myself, I really need to hear what you're saying right now. And I really could have done this very differently. But you don't speak to me this way. I am saying to myself, I don't let anyone speak to me this way, not even you, I'm saying to myself. So when you change your inner culture, everything around you starts to change. Otherwise, when you're abusing yourself this way, your abusers are going to find you. Abusers, if you look at them, hurt people. You don't want to find the hurt people. If you are a hurt person, you're going to find your match. So heal yourself.
That's a mic drop right there. That's a good place to leave it. Gentlemen, you got to stop blaming yourself. You got to let other people be willing to accept you. You've got to believe a woman might actually like you and be interested in you. And all of that's going to be a lot more likely to begin with when our self-talk changes and we set ourselves up to thrive instead of just simply survive. And by surviving, you know, we've already said we've made that synonymous with just getting up tomorrow and dreading the next day, just like we dreaded yesterday because we expect something bad to happen. And, you know, that was a Freudian. We accept something bad to happen. I love everything you're saying, and I do want to have you back because I think this is a conversation that could go in all kinds of directions from here. But of course, we're out of time. Her name is Sonia Bari. She's a relationship therapist and coach and emotional clarity expert in New Jersey. And when you go to mountaintoppodcast.com/Sonia, which is SANYA, okay, SANYA, you will be magically teleported to her Instagram. She's got a gift for you on Instagram, which sounds really cool. What's up with that, Sonia? What are they
the
gonna
gift
get?
is when you go on Instagram and you message me the word love, I'm going to be sending you a beautiful gift that with videos and a worksheet so that you can get to love clarity. I want to make sure, Scott, that I thank you for being in this world and helping men create a new version of man.
Well, thank you for being in this world and gracing us with your presence too, Sonny. You're doing the Lord's work here. And man, there are so many people out there branding themselves as trauma recovery specialists and resilience experts. I think you've taken it the extra mile here. You've really gotten to the point of what's really going on with guys. And I got to tell you, I get pitches to be on this show from those resilience experts and trauma recovery people, 24 a week. Your approach to this was different and it stood out, and I think it's powerful. Thank you so much for joining us. And yes, come back, please.
Thank you for having me, Scott.
Yeah. And guys, when you go to mountaintoppodcast.com, like I told you at the beginning of the show, sign up for the newsletter. Get your free book, Sticking Points Solved. Okay. You got sticking points and they are unsolved. Well, a lot of those sticking points are related to directly what we're talking about today. So you want practicality, you're going to get it from that book. Go to mountaintoppodcast.com and sign up for the newsletter. Now listen, when you sign up for the newsletter, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you every day something that's going to help you objectively be a better man who gets better with women. It's not all fluff. It's not one of these, hey, I just want you to buy something, or here's my buddy who's selling something. I have great offers for you guys, and there's lots of cool stuff I've done over 20 years you should get your hands on. But listen, every day I'm going to give you something fluff-free to make you better with women right now. That's the reason why you go to mountaintoppodcast.com and get on that newsletter. And of course, coaching programs, guys, that's what I do for a living. I've done it for 20 years. Just like Sonny is an expert on emotional clarity, I'm an expert on helping you get the right woman in your life instead of the wrong one. That's what I do differently. It isn't just about notching your bedpost. This is about real relationships with real women. The soapbox lately, guys, is get out there in real life and meet real women and rediscover the value of a real relationship where the two of you value each other. And if that's resonating with you, hey, get on my Zoom. Let's talk about it. It's all there for you at mountaintoppodcast.com. And guys, the three big sponsors of this show have been there for over a half a decade now, all three of them. Jocko Willink's company, Origin in Maine, The Key Port, and also Hero Soap. All those run by real men who are going to make your life just a little bit manlier when you partake of their stuff. Okay, so get in touch with all three of our sponsors at mountaintoppodcast.com as well. And when you're there, use the coupon code MOUNTAIN10 when you make any purchase from those guys. And all of that and more is there for you. Even more is there for you at mountaintoppodcast.com. And until I talk to you again real soon, this is Scott McKay from X&Y Communications in San Antonio, Texas. Be good out there.
The Mountaintop Podcast is produced by X&Y Communications. All rights reserved worldwide. Be sure to visit www.mountaintoppodcast.com for show notes. And while you're there, sign up for the free X&Y Communications newsletter for men. This is Ed Roy Odom speaking for the Mountaintop Podcast.